Okay, we're going to start the Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen meeting. It's Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. Happy New Year. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, is this yours? Or is that?
That's yours.
Oh.
Those are the notes from the first.
Okay, great, thank you.
You had already out the door when I made the copies.
Oh, okay.
Item 2, approval of the minutes, December 19, 2018.
Make a motion to approve the December 19, 2018 minutes.
Second.
Those in favor? Unanimous. 3. Review of treasurer's warrants, payroll 160 and 1. Accounts payable 161 and 162.
I make a motion to approve A and B as read.
Second.
Those in favor? Unanimous. Open session. Chris, did you want to speak to us?
Not necessarily.
Okay, moving on. Selectmen's concerns.
Want to do it here, or you want me to? I want to talk about the planning board meeting.
Go right ahead.
Well,
You
it's
wanna do it
down
now, or do
under
you wanna do it under
8A. Do you want
That's
to do
what-
it under
yeah, that's
8A
fine. I
and just
just-
all
yeah.
together?
Sure.
Okay, that's fine. Anything else?
Well, the only thing you know, and the roads there are icy parts, but I will say that the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because I go to Dover every single day, and their roads are exactly like ours, the back roads. So
Yeah, I think
It's-
there was some grousing on that last ice storm, but I happened to go to Abbott that evening, and the Pond Road in Abbott was worse than the French's Mills Road or the Silver's Mills Road. So, like, I just think it was kind
oh
of.
my gosh, yeah.
But Chris and Warren and now
Barrett?
Barrett is also helping, and our road is cleaned up a lot. So
Yeah.
And Chris is every time I get a call, a complaint, either an email or, a phone call, I usually text Chris. Or Chris and Warren, I do it as a group text to them both, because I don't know who has what route, and typically Chris responds and says, we're on it, or let me check with the guys, and he'll get back to me. And so,
I do, and they've never said this to me, but I do sometimes see that there may be some strategizing going on where, I've looked, the rain's about to stop in a couple of hours, they let that go, because just throwing more sand on it is gonna be a total waste.
Right.
Then he'll come, and sure enough, about the time that I'd expect him, he comes through, so I get, I sent you guys a picture of that, how icy that road looked.
Yeah.
But 30 minutes later, he was coming by.
Yeah.
And he's even started using the little, the pickup truck with the 8-foot plow, just to try to scrape ice off, because the big plow bridges and doesn't really work very well, so. Anyway,
But anyway, Dover and Dexter, I've been in both of them, they have the same problem, so.
Sure.
it's winter and
Yeah,
rain.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I think actually, and coming down my dirt road tonight, it is unbelievable. It's like a highway, it is gorgeous. And dirt roads are a challenge.
Yeah.
But I did get a unpleasant visitor conversation. I did get an email a few minutes later as an apology
Oh,
from it, so that's,
oh,
was that alright?
kinda equaled out, didn't it?
Kinda, well, almost. The only thing is, and I tried, but didn't, I know with the class that I took on roads and putting sand on ice on those conditions, all that is a mental fix for you driving.
Is
It
that
doesn't-
right?
Yeah, they tell you that when you take that. It does absolutely
Interesting.
nothing for you to do. Because when that sand hits that ice, it just melts down into it and it's gone. You can see it, but it's in it, it's not there. So it's not really part of.
that's
and
interesting.
So, and I know that's exactly, I tried to explain, I knew what the guys did. They had sand, they were sanding well before that. The sand and salt was under that ice. And with the pouring rain that morning, I knew, they were just waiting for that temperature to hit
Yeah,
33,
yeah,
34
yeah, yeah.
degrees, and you cut that, and it literally did, they went down through, once it warmed up enough to let that stuff work underneath there, and it peeled every bit of it off.
Yeah.
The shady areas are still patches
Yeah,
down there, but
yeah,
it does look really good, there wasn't much longer, like I said, and
Right.
they were out, and
right,
so anyway.
so, I think they're doing a good job.
I think so.
Alright.
And he's responsive, I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't complain about
Great.
that.
Any other selectmen concerns? Mr. Dobson, we've got past open session. Did you want a chance to speak? Okay. On to, item 7, new business. Fire department's over budget for 2018.
Yeah, they had a furnace exchanger blow, and it was like
Exchange, yep.
$1,300. And plus the $500 on the dumpster were 2 unexpected things that they purchased, so,
Well, we told them to do the dumpster.
we did. Right, we
Honestly,
did.
That was us.
So, and I think, after the dumpster was there, I talked to the guy that cleans, and he said it was a lot better upstairs, so,
I've got some positive comments.
yeah.
I've been up there.
Since they've done it?
Yep.
And
yep.
it's better?
Yeah, oh, yeah, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
So it was money well spent.
yes.
Yeah.
Good.
So they're over by 1360.98, which we have contingency for covering those overages. But you need to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the overage of $13.60 for the fire department budget for 2018. And for that money to come out of contingency.
Second.
Any further discussion? None? Those in favor? It's unanimous.
Quick question, though.
Yeah.
Okay?
Only because they did a good job and it's gone and I'm happy, so don't make this think I'm not happy. When the fire department does burn unwanted buildings that are on the tax roll,
I don't know if they charge any fees for that. I have not had that discussion. I do know that they had 2, I think, that were scheduled, but I never heard any conversation about any fees.
that's one question. My other question is how does that work? Because
If they charge a
this
fee, if
well,
they
no,
charge.
this is my thought process, okay? We have a building that's assessed for a value, and that's our town's income. And then we have a department that's funded by the town,
Right.
that's eliminating that asset. I mean, I'm glad that building is gone.
Say, why are you complaining about that place?
Because it's tax value. Seriously, I mean, that's the bottom line, is that building was bringing in revenue for the town.
I just question, it's kind of a fallacy of causation. They could tear down that building. They don't need a permit to tear it down, they don't need our permission. It just so happens that the mechanism they used was to train our local fire department.
No, this one in particular, there was no training. It was a let go. And I'm glad
It was a
they did
containment, it was a containment fire.
How was that?
There's actually a lot of, especially for some of us newer guys, a lot of insight into watching how the fire moves through a building, even from standing outside.
Correct, but I mean,
And timing it and talking about it. I mean, and a few of us did actually go in, and one set the fire, several observed.
Just seeing how fast a house goes up in flames is pretty,
35 minutes and
Yeah.
the roof collapsed.
yeah,
Yeah, that's-
oh, it was gone.
Yeah.
Well,
But it was balloon construction frame
8
in,
Anderson.
The one
the
that's
suspended
before
ceiling that obviously lit right up.
was there a strategy in the starting point? Did you
Christmas
assess
tree
the,
fire.
oh, okay, yeah, I like that.
That was, we actually took a Christmas tree in and lit wrapping paper under it
Right,
to catch it on fire, to watch how long it would take and how the smoke changed, and
yep,
we stayed in until we were told to evacuate.
So there
which
were
was
things
about
to learn.
2.5 minutes.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
We didn't get a hose wet, it was great. But there's a lot to be said about watching how the fire moved through the structure and to see how long we'd have for response time and to actually get a person out of there.
Sure.
You know, in that situation, it was probably 12 minutes.
Wow, wow.
Somebody sleeping upstairs didn't have a big window.
They might not even had 12 minutes.
Yeah, no,
You
Wow.
know, it was
it was pretty sneaky.
somebody on the first floor having collapsed. You probably have 12 minutes, and then it was too late at that point to drag them out the door. I'm not saying that CPR, they need attention, but there was a lot of discussion.
I
so
know, this
thought
is, it's a catch-22, I mean, that's our revenue, that's all, and we're spending
Yeah, but-
town funds
Yeah,
to.
but,
it might be a needle in the haystack, but the guy had talked about he couldn't insure it, the money to put into it.
Trust me, I know the whole
He
Yeah.
could
story.
build, so I think he may be building there too.
But I
So
don't
he may
like
get a
it.
better.
I don't see why the fire department, they're burning it down, he could destroy it, he could have hired Chris Newt to bulldoze it.
Correct.
That still would,
or he could.
There's my point right there, if you would've gone that route, that would've been expensive.
well, that goes to the other
That's what
question,
I'm-
did he pay anything for the
Correct.
service?
That's what I want,
Oh.
when this happens, what's the process? Is it a free service, are we, recouping? I mean, there was quite a few
I
guys
don't
there.
know the answer to that.
There was an actual cost associated
Oh, sure.
with
Yes.
what that runs. So
Remember when
that's
we
my-
met with Guilford?
Are we doing that?
He told the story, they charged, I thought it was $1,000, but I don't remember exactly. And they had an arrangement with the town manager, they were splitting that money.
That's right.
Half
that's
of
right.
it went to some sort of a
Fund,
fund, and half of
yeah.
it went to the town to compensate the
Yeah.
town's expense.
Yep,
So we
Yeah,
should
we-
have a policy.
yeah, we should look into that.
Based on maybe square footage, because I know the other little building is really like shed size.
Well,
if not
based
a
on the
little
fee.
bigger. Yeah, square
Yeah.
footage.
Well, based on the
Well,
cost.
the fee of going, I
If
mean.
you're
Right.
gonna have 20
Yeah.
guys, and it's
We
20
shouldn't
guys
lose
standing
money
around
for
4
these.
hours. That's what I would base it on.
We shouldn't be going backwards to do this
Correct.
service. I mean, we don't wanna fill swimming pools either, for some reason, so.
But, Chris, I don't know, were you paid for that call? Was it a paid
It's
call?
It's training.
It's training.
It's training.
I exceeded my training hours for 2018 long ago,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was not paid for that
Okay.
when I was there.
Okay,
They max out at 32 training hours
I
a
see,
year.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
And I went
Interesting.
at it for 3 months of training to get up to speed and have a good comprehension of how to be an effective firefighter.
Yeah, we had 6 or 8 do the basic firefighter so they can be SCBA certified. This fall they did that.
108 hours involved in that course, I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think we had perfect attendance. and
I know,
all
oh, so that's
Yeah.
why you shaved?
Yeah, so I can wear the hair back.
Sure, that's right, okay, now. so
Where do we
I'll come-
stand on the EMT
that.
certification?
We don't have a certification and I don't think we plan on having a certification.
Okay, but we're all
anytime.
clear on what we can and can't do now.
I believe so.
That's important to know.
I did talk with Jeff about certification, so.
Anything more on the fire department? No? Old business, adult use marijuana ordinance petitioned, that's been advanced, correct?
That is correct. I did speak with the attorney because, in the opinion, you know how he had the italics on there and we discussed one article or 2 articles and if this one's first and this one's second. That wasn't the way he had written it. He apologized for the interpretation that it's one article, just with that italics underneath it.
Oh,
So it would
okay.
only be the one article with the one ordinance.
Okay,
Put his article through that way.
that
Yes.
makes way
Yes.
more sense.
Yes, yes.
So that doesn't-
article, his
Right.
way.
Yeah,
with
That doesn't
italics.
constitute a change then?
Correct, correct.
Interesting.
Because we didn't change the
it's just a-
article, we just
it's
made
just
the
a-
note,
right.
notation
What
that
the
these are the
yes-
rules.
Right, right,
what
if
you're
it's a yes, this
agreeing
is
to.
what you're doing, so it
Yes.
just clarifies.
That's kind
Correct,
of what we asked the other night, yeah, good.
yeah,
Okay.
That's definitely simpler.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I said, well, that's why I said to him, like, well, what if this one passes and this? And he's like, no,
what do you
he
mean?
called me, he's like, no.
Do not do that.
So is it gonna be 2?
No,
articles,
it's
still
one
just
article.
Just one
this week?
article.
One
That
article
makes
with the
way
italic
more sense.
explanation underneath.
Okay. And as far as what the planning board's working on, is that a future date?
That would, whatever, if they have it ready for that, that would be a separate warrant article,
Oh, yes, that, okay.
yes.
All right. Now I'm fully comprehending where we're at.
Which,
So, you wanted to talk about the planning board?
Yes, so I did go to that meeting that night. I was listening back and forth, I was kinda confused, so I asked the question. It kinda seemed, I don't really know if they had a good direction or a path, or maybe it's my interpretation, but it seemed to be, from what I was gathering, is they were working on an ordinance, I mean, to go along with what Chris's petition was, rather than really what the overall should be, or the direction we want the town to go in. At the time, they were 10 tier 2s and under, with nothing bigger. We talked back and forth about that. I expressed my concern, I did express everything as my concern, not as our concern, because we hadn't officially talked about this stuff. Because my interpretation of a tier 1, tier 2, I didn't see where there's a tax benefit to the town as far as within the property values. I didn't see where you're gonna gain much for employment. So realistically, I could see where with an ordinance, we're gonna create a lot of paperwork for somebody, whether it be code enforcement or the town office. And the only people that are really gonna benefit financially are gonna be those 10 people that would have that permit. So I asked the questions as far as, why, or, why wouldn't we wanna go bigger, with the potential that you have a bigger company with a large investment for taxation purpose for us, with the potential of employing some people. So that way there's, I think with a tier 3 or a tier 4, you've got more growth there for that to happen. So we talked back and forth about that a little bit. We talked about in town versus out of town. I understand the thought process of in town, but I did remind them that, like in behind Bowley's is a large parcel. Williams own a large parcel in behind 23. Cabot's, you own another parcel. Up on the hill, there's another large parcel in there that all has access to town water, town sewer. That, so there is, under the right circumstance, there is potential for a large operation within town. But, so if you're gonna write something in an ordinance, please kinda think that in mind, that you may be able to do that. So I believe it was Matt brought it up, and it did pass. It would be the 10 tier 2, then unlimited 3s and 4s.
Provided there was a 5-acre.
5 acre minimum on a 3 or a 4. So that would take,
Okay.
even
Yeah.
if you was in town, if you
Right.
hit that 5 acre
Sure.
mark,
Sure.
you've got the potential of, or the possibility of doing that.
Yep.
If somebody wanted to. So, and we talked about, didn't get into a lot of detail about the fees. We did talk about how some towns are charging a lot more and some are charging a lot less. I did ask the question, I said, well, if we you come up with this ordinance and this passes, who's gonna enforce that? Which would be our code enforcement. So that was what I also reminded them. I said, you need to be very aware of that when you're writing an ordinance, and what rules you're applying, what is those costs gonna be associated with code enforcement, and how are we gonna be able to recoup that back through to get this so it equals. And I know there was some conversations back and forth about medical. The verbiage on theirs is actually just says marijuana, it doesn't say recreational, or, so I asked the question, we didn't get an answer. When we say 10 tier 2s and under, is that recreational, or is that gonna, because the way it's verbiage, that's gonna cover everything. So I think they need a little guidance, really. My own opinion. They're heading in the direction, but and nobody showed up at the meeting. They were supposed to be.
Nobody showed up.
So I mean, they're
pushed
not
for it to
getting
be posted and,
Right.
they're not getting a lot of input.
You didn't go?
no, I went.
Oh,
he
you were
did.
there.
But
But nobody, it was
oh.
honestly me and Chris and my
Oh.
wife came. That was
Oh.
it. So,
Yeah.
we got talking about the medical side of it. And, Chris brought up that right now there's 6 or 7 growers, 6 to 8? Can't remember the number you said. But 6 to 8 in the range. They're limiting it to 2. We already have 6 to 8. But the board didn't know that,
Yeah.
and they would ask some questions related to medical, about maybe potentially putting it in there. Then Chris would let them know it's already in there. It's the law. So I think that
I didn't come in pushing for big business either, cause I'm looking mainly at my own interests. Doesn't make a difference to me if this 20,000 square foot grows or not, I'm limited to,
No,
the 2,000, so.
Sure.
The chair has been the most vocal about it, and I think that was the direction it had been going until he started getting more feedback. And I think we'll see a different version at the next planning board meeting.
He did say he's not gonna hold any specials, he's just gonna hold regular planning board times.
So there's only one a month. So the next one is in January. I mean, yes, this month, but the third Thursday, right? So, I will definitely be there. I apologize for not being there this past one. But who's the expert? Like, where can we, I mean, we seem to, where can we get the answers to the questions?
well, the only thing that I brought up too is, I mean, the recreational side of it, that's already in the law. The medical side of it is in the law. They just added the whole hemp side of it to the farm bill, so that's in the law. So, if you're gonna do this, there's already a couple of things already out there. I'm kinda, until it's all in the law, I don't really like the idea of voting on it, because if you put it down there, that's all on us to enforce.
Right.
Whereas, if it's under the law, then if that's an issue, it's the sheriff's department.
Right,
And that's, when you start adding more and more and more on the code enforcement, I don't think, especially if you don't know what's needed and what's not needed.
right.
Now that we've streamlined the warrant, there's one question. It seems to me that there's really no rush on this ordinance until it passes. If it doesn't pass,
Then, right.
we don't need to do anything. If it does pass, then it's subject to an ordinance, and then I think people will get engaged, because the legislative body will have just passed this. We can have workshops, we can discuss all these variables,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and, because right now, people aren't engaged because they don't really.
Yeah, right. If it doesn't pass, then it
Right,
just falls.
a lot of people don't even know it's gonna be an article.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and once that, we could even, I'm sure there are experts out there that would come and speak to us. And these are some of the pitfalls, here are some things to watch for. But I don't think we need to engage that until the town's decided they wanna go in that direction. Which, by the end of February, we'll know the answer to
We'll
that.
know. And
Cause
then
that,
we'll have-
I'm not ducking it, I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
until we get there, we don't really need to hash all these variables out.
Well, if they're not gonna do any special meetings, we're not talking very far for them.
No, it's,
But not only that, there is enough information out there right now, that if they wanted to work on something, there is
Right.
enough stuff for them to read that already is in the law that they really ought to know about. Because I didn't really get that they even knew much about the medical side of it. It was kinda relying on you.
The chair is fairly clueless, absolutely, and he's said that. He doesn't know much about it. I think some of the other planning board members may have a little more knowledge of the industry than necessarily the chair does. They also seem to be a little more open to bigger businesses with the idea of, these larger grows coming to town and offsetting tax dollars.
Yeah, cause honestly, I got the view from one person that it didn't matter to the business. It was the size of that type of facility, did not want it regardless.
From one of the planning board members?
well, and I think
So I
you're
kinda
gonna,
flipped it around at that point, I said, okay, well, I guess before we talk about anything, as a planning board, you really need to decide, are you open to have business within our town? Because it doesn't matter the conversation, if you're gonna have that type of building, it's gonna be there, do you want that or not? So, it was interesting.
I'm sure it was.
and because of the nature of our government, our municipal government, a lot of this is gonna come down to the planning board. I don't know how much authority we will have with regard to permitting costs. You mentioned the idea of restricting certain categories to a certain number of people. I can see
all
us
planning
not
boards.
necessarily agreeing on that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, do we restrict the number of stores that are allowed to sell alcohol?
'Cause
No?
you really should have been there, cause.
We don't, right?
That
I
was
hate to
brought up
say
many
I
times.
say I hate to say we wasted 2 hours, because we really didn't, but we didn't make much progress.
Well, but I think
We were having a
you
great
gained an
discussion.
understanding of
We
how
all
thorny
gained
this could be.
An understanding of how each person had a different perspective on what could be accomplished, or in my case, what my goals are. And then like I was reviewing and I missed the nursery license, that's gonna have to be, that's just a whole separate license.
But I was kind of fascinated by this sheet that we got before the last meeting, and the fee structures that exist already, and this is just starting. And we're assuming that these towns know what they're doing, but they may not, I mean, some of this may or may not be legal. But there's quite a disparity between Lisbon and Farmington.
I think
And
you'll see some challenges,
I suspect you're correct.
when you're licensed to sell beers, $300-400, and they want, and that's a state license.
I would say, I don't even think the communities are allowed to charge a
No,
fee.
We don't get any fees
We
for
have
beer.
authorized the sale,
Yeah.
period, in our community. But this is a different animal.
It's the way it was legalized, I mean, it's the way it's coming through.
Right.
But with marijuana, isn't it a class, what type of drug? As far as when you prescribe it, is it a class,
It's, the federal government still considers it a Schedule 1.
oh, it's a Schedule 1, it's a Schedule 1. But, and so my argument is beer, I mean, anybody who's 18 can drink, right, 18 or 21? 21, used to be 18. 21 can drink beer, so we are talking about a different thing. We're talking about a different.
Well, only because the feds look at it differently.
Right,
I mean, Maine has said,
So-
and California and Colorado say,
10 states
have at it.
have said, we do not consider marijuana a Schedule 1 drug.
But even our laws say you have to be 21 for marijuana.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
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 That's
that's,
still
yeah.
21
Yeah.
too.
I mean,
but you get into the
I think
federal
you should be
aspect of
18.
this.
You can die free country, you should be able to have a beer or smoke a joint, but that's
When,
my opinion.
when Farmington charges $15,000 for an indoor grow, okay? And the federal government says, that's a lot of money
Yeah,
that
we
you've
want-
brought to your town coffers on a
Yeah.
product that we say is illegal.
Illegal.
You put that into our banking system, does Farmington need to be concerned about that?
I think so.
Well, those are all questions I think
So,
these towns are gonna have to
What
deal
if
with.
the fee structure is set up so to avoid applicants?
Sure.
Perhaps,
Right.
it's a barrier to entry.
Because when you're talking 2,000 square feet and $15,000 just to apply,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's
chewing
legal
up
in our
profit
town, but
margin.
you're not
That's
gonna
right.
afford to.
That's
Well,
right.
this is 20,000 square feet.
20,000
Right.
square feet.
But there's a movie called Murder Mountain. It's really fascinating.
It's worth watching.
really?
There's two parallel stories in there, but the really fascinating part for us is it's a documentary kind of on California and their legalization process.
Have you all
And-
seen it?
I haven't seen it, he just told me.
And you've seen it? Ah.
All the little local farmers, it shows them on the night that it went through, they're all just ecstatic, happy, and you go through what, about an hour of the movie, and these guys are crestfallen. They realize now, Uncle Sam is 9,000 for this permit, 5,000 for that license, 6,000 for this permit, these are annual permits. They're like, these guys did to us in one vote what the DEA couldn't do in 20 years.
Yeah. that's
We're out of
actually, I think
business.
that's the verbiage. in
Yeah.
somewhere. It says that.
So it's good.
Oh, I can't, okay.
The rules have changed,
Yeah.
because the government is gonna run this. For Sangerville, I really don't know the impact, but I don't really think we need to spend a ton of time
State
on it.
licensing alone, I'm looking at $10,000.
There you go.
Really?
So they're all gonna get a piece of the action.
And it's 15% tax, sales tax.
And a excise tax set in statute.
What's happened in California is the black market
And
has
that's why I
reemerged.
think the planning board really needs to go with policy
Wait, we wanna go back.
on this.
But they have a task force,
Forward rather
in the
than
movie, it'll show there's a
an
task
ordinance.
force in the sheriff's
Can't-
department. And they've got,
can't have a
it's not
policy
public
to
works, the sheriff's
regulate.
department owns their own big
Has to be
shepherd.
an ordinance.
And they do helicopter flights, they write all the grows down, they go back, research who's got permits, who don't. And they just show up and clean house and chip. and fine like.
I think there's a difference in legal
And how
opinion.
it drones and everything, I mean, they just can.
Sure.
Once you
It's
create
a-
an ordinance,
I couldn't,
can't wait.
I couldn't sleep the other night, I started watching it,
town
it's a
can
series, I
make
can't remember how
policy
many
to cover those rules
episodes.
and regulations.
Fantastic.
3:30 in the
Because you
morning.
have your
still watching.
municipal vote for yes or no.
So,
So you might wanna talk to the town's attorney about that.
What was the
Did
question?
he answer that?
I didn't think so, but
He says if we pass the ordinance, then you can create a policy versus another ordinance to regulate. And
We
I
probably could,
think it's, I
but
think it's an
based
odd.
on this language, it's saying there needs to be an ordinance.
the only thing
But-
is, what we already know, if it's a policy, it's not enforceable
That's right,
That's right.
that's right,
by anybody.
okay.
that's right.
Question?
Yep,
Not only that, a policy is through the board.
correct.
An ordinance has to go through the people, the system.
Yeah.
I think that's a big difference between the being able to do it. They don't have the right to do something that's really required by vote of the people.
The other thing is, what is the scope of the ordinance? Does the ordinance necessarily nail down all the details of fee structure? Perhaps that would be done by policy.
Correct.
You
Well, I
got an
think that
ordinance in
was-
terms of zoning, you know, you can't
All
be this
the-
far from the town center, and you can't do this, you can't do that, and you can do this, you can do that. But,
Well, that was honestly, that's kinda after I left that meeting and I thought more about it, where you don't know what the laws are gonna be, and even if you do you really want, do we wanna have Mr. Tozier out there constantly checking on all this
what's
stuff?
he gonna be
Because-
checking on though?
Well, if you have an ordinance, I mean, there was a good
The
thing
only-
about, they brought up about security cameras, it has to be this, it has to be that. So,
Yeah, no, everything you throw in there, you've gotta, the
And-
state
Oh,
isn't
you've
gonna
gotta
do it.
enforce.
correct, that's my point.
Right.
I think they'd ask that at the end of that though. But I'm
I
not
wasn't-
100% sure.
But I think, my own opinion, if we were gonna have an ordinance, instead of worrying about the nuts and the bolts of how you're gonna enforce it, that's, I think what Mike kinda just said, that's what I would rather see the direction of an ordinance, is don't worry about, let the law worry about security cameras, let the law worry about all the details of how it's gonna be. If we want an ordinance that is gonna say that it needs to be so many acres within center of town, or whatever, an acreage period, I think that's a better direction then that's all part of the permit process.
Right,
You need to meet this criteria, you don't even get a permit.
right.
You don't wanna create
No.
laws that you cannot enforce,
Right.
or that you don't have the stomach to enforce.
Right.
Right,
But I think if we did it that way, then you could, because part of your process, you'd have to, you'd know where it is, or you'd know the direction.
It's kinda like the ATV speed.
Correct,
I mean, you
Yeah.
can say it's a good
Exactly.
idea, but if you don't have anybody out there to pull them over,
Right.
correct, doesn't do you any good.
Right.
That's exactly where that's at.
Just to comment, sometimes less is more.
we've learned that. So I think pretty much we kinda can table
Let it
that
simmer,
until, let's see
yeah.
what it does at the end of February.
Yeah.
Then I think you're gonna see a lot of engagement.
Right.
If this passes, there're gonna be people that have concerns, people are excited, and I think we'll probably fill this room with a workshop,
Right.
so. And maybe we'll get a few an expert or two to come in and tell us some things, so. Anything more on that? Correspondence?
I have none.
Early night.
Yes.
A request for additional agenda items?
Well, you can see I've given you a preliminary,
It's not even called yet, Joey.
Okay.
a preliminary budget, but there's a couple of things that I haven't, increased. Electricity's going up a penny a
Oh,
kilowatt. Our sewer is going up $7 a quarter per location. I haven't heard back from water yet. I did hear back from Dexter Transfer Station to compare the two prices, and I need a little more clarification. Right now, it looks like it's double what we're already paying, so,
In Dexter?
yeah. But it could be because he's calculating other fees that we pay directly to MRC.
Which direction is Dexter going in the whole fiberite
I don't know if they're MRC. I believe they're fiber right.
I don't know, that's why I couldn't remember. I didn't know if
I think they are, because the facility is not completed as yet, so they are in the same boat that we are in, because the facility is not complete. Minimum wage is going up, so that is affecting quite a few things. From Dover, for transfer station, I did get an estimated 5% increase. Of course, that will affect anybody that we're paying minimum wage. Internet, I turned it off as of today,
There
so
we
we
go.
are 100%
Forever.
forever free.
Wow.
Yep.
That was negotiating genius right there.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I think it was your idea.
School payment, you can see I've guesstimated, she wouldn't give me a figure. And that's probably, because you already know the mowing bids and stuff, so, everything as far as the expended column is up to date as of this morning. And we've got a couple of outstanding water bill, sewer bill, I think. Nothing great that's gonna really affect anything in great detail. My public works, you can see we had, I think, about 14,000 left. I thought we did. Yeah.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
spent 399. You can see how I did that. I took my total and subtracted my 125,000, which left me the 399, 769. So I've tried to make sure that all of my proposed numbers are the same up to this point, but I think with some of these changes, I'll try to keep it within the same range if I can manipulate within a budget, a line item, to try to keep it as much as we can the same. I think I've estimated, a 10% increase in school, which is huge.
Yeah.
It's like 50,000. It's over 50,000, the whole mill. And on the last page, a couple pages, we have revenues.
I would just look, is the CD revenue in there?
It
Interest
is
on it?
our,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. Now, you
01.
mentioned to me outside the meeting that we got an increase on our
I did.
checkbook. That's nice.
Yeah, I had another bank try to solicit, and they were offering the 1%, so I contacted our bank and said, hey, they're offering us 1%, and they matched it.
Of
Great.
course, we would be glad to do that.
That's right. Interest, here we go, on the CD.
Yeah, I see it.
So on the CD right now is 20,206.63.
Okay.
So, you can see motor vehicle excise. I'm not sure what's going on with motor vehicle excise, but that is a $20,000 jump in excise from last year to this year.
Thank you, being over.
I
Oh,
see
did
a
you
little
buy-
asterisk, Dale. Great.
Dale.
Bought a Jeep this year. Hurt really bad.
So, until the number until it's consistent, I don't want to over budget on income on that, so I did jump it a little bit. But you can see up to that point, we've been hovering around 215, 230, 230. So this 255 was a little bit of a surprise that it came in so high.
I think you're gonna see that steadily going up because every year motor vehicles are just costing more and they're not falling off the other end.
Correct.
Well, and not only that,
So,
though,
it's
we do
always
have
gonna-
some bigger companies that are purchasing more and more vehicles. And I think that was a big jump. Our state revenue sharing was 10,000 more than we had anticipated, and I put 75 in there preliminary, but I think I'm gonna change it to 80 because because they're fiscal year, so they go from July to June.
Wow.
So it's hard to guesstimate in there. But again, they're projecting an 85,000 or more for main revenue sharing for their fiscal year.
Oh, so it's weird.
Yeah, so it makes it a little more tough to calculate.
Yeah.
And so those are the bigger numbers that you can kind of count on a little bit.
Abby Fowler with 0, I just enjoy looking at that.
Abby Fowler is done.
You could have deleted that right off from the line.
Well, we've got the expenses in there.
From
From
this
this
year,
year.
18.
Yeah, yeah.
18.
I
Enjoy it.
Not
Yeah.
19,
So
right?
next year,
Next
I
year.
can delete it up
This year,
next year.
19.
that would be worth a party, just
That's right.
watch you stroke that key and delete that right off the screen forever.
Well, I do have the key still sitting in there. He had emailed me and, cause it has a tank. And the tank is registered with the DEP and we were supposed to have it inspected every year, which I did not know we were supposed to have it inspected every year. So I got a letter from the DEP and said, you haven't inspected your tank. I said, well, wonder of wonders, we don't own that building anymore.
Great.
I'll let the new owner know that.
So I did. He actually
Notified
came
him.
in the next morning and it's like, oh, hey,
Here's your key.
here's
By
your
the way, here's
paperwork.
also a message for you.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good.
So, but, I feel confident that he's gonna do a great job with that building. The more and more I see with him, cause I've added as Gordon Contracting on Facebook.
Oh, it's crazy what he's got on there.
And, I mean,
It's amazing.
and just going to the
Yeah.
dinner thing.
The,
He gives 10% every year for special causes or whatever, out of his profits.
Yep.
And it was 100,000 that he gave. So that, I mean, it says something about him as a person and as a company and,
His projects just look good.
yeah,
He does a
Doesn't
very-
short arm them
Yeah.
at all.
Nothing.
so,
Does an amazing job.
yeah,
It's exciting.
it is. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he does with that building,
Yeah.
so.
And you know, there's, I know the assessor went around and picked up a number of buildings, and so we don't know what increase we may be, but it's gonna go up.
It should go up, because I had given him a list that we had kind of, I mean, it was a short list, but I
Yeah.
told him specifically, you need to make sure you go and get,
Yeah.
you know, do your review like you're supposed to. I do wanna get with him a little bit more on the personal property, because I think we're missing a lot of income on the personal property, not as tax dollars, but as reimbursement.
Right.
Because after 2008 for the BETR and 2011, I think, for the BETE, businesses that purchase equipment, they don't have to pay tax on it, but if they claim it and file it with us, and we file it with the state reimburses us. So companies don't understand that. They think, well, I don't wanna claim that because I don't wanna pay tax on it. Well, it falls under the tax exempt program. And so they wouldn't have to pay tax on it, but we would still get money in our pocket
So
from the
it's an
state.
education thing.
It
Correct.
is an education thing. And so I want him to get out there and educate our businesses,
Yeah.
so.
That's,
And you know, they're not that many. That's something that, I mean,
Right.
if you were wanting to knock on the door and say, you know, if you have anything that falls into this category, it'd be a
Right.
big help.
Exactly.
So,
And it doesn't have to be new equipment, cause I think Palmer Lumber, I mean, they purchased in that time frame, but it was older equipment, but because they purchased it in that time frame, it still kind of falls in that.
Well, and that'd be good too, because he should have an itemized list of every business.
He should,
And, I mean, to make an appointment to go see a business with that, and then do a walkthrough. I mean, it's not very hard to
right,
take that list and do the walkthrough and say, what about that? And then, you know, and
Right.
to get that updated.
yep. So, that's all I have on,
this is gonna be a lot slicker process than historically. I think, you know, you've got 3 meetings scheduled with the budget
I
committee.
have 3 meetings, yeah. And tentatively, they're the 14th, 15th, and 16th. I was gonna do it the week before, but I had one board member that couldn't make any of those. So I adjusted and I'm waiting for the confirmation back, the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Because I have to have it ready and in the town report by the 25th.
Have you talked to the Historical Society about the date and the food, the meal?
They did come in and ask, sometime in November. I mean, after we had
So
picked the
they're
date,
aware
so
of
they
what we're
knew,
picking,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah. Yeah, and they were happy that we had picked a Thursday again.
Yeah.
Because it worked really well for them.
good.
Yeah,
so
they
they were
have
happy
a
with
lot of people there.
Yeah.
Set up, okay.
Alright, I got one other thing, it's kind of budgetary. I don't wanna add it on, but
And
And
so, in here,
it's kind of part of this, but it's kind of an add-on to this.
okay,
When we talk about roads, and especially after my conversation this weekend, this is where this come in light. What do you guys think? And we don't need the yes or no tonight, but to think about, when we do the budget, when it comes to public works and the sand and the salt, we do it the same way we've always done it, whatever that number happens to be. What about if we had another article after this, and to try to calculate, one side of me thinks it maybe save a little money on the plowing, because it would be easier to help offset, but maybe it wouldn't, because I don't know. But whatever the added cost would be to winter maintenance, to go to straight salt. And then, because that's the only way we're gonna get our roads, because everybody's driving 23, they're driving 15, 6 hours after a storm, and the next day, the road's
clear.
bare.
Yeah.
Why am I driving on snow?
Chris is gonna he can't throw straight salt on a dirt road.
No.
So he's gonna have to switch loads, and I don't know if that's
I'm just, like I said,
logistically possible.
I don't know either, it'd be a question for him.
Well, I think one of the things that you should consider, or we should discuss with them, is actually pre-wetting, which is almost like a straight salt, but not quite. You take a salt brine mixture, and as it comes out of the spinner, it wets the sand so it actually sticks to the road. Because if you're on an ice road and you travel, that sand is going off to the side, so it's
Sure.
not affecting anything. When you pre-wet it, it sticks to the ice and it will stay there.
I know the theory behind that, and I went to the class and they said that.
But you said it melts in. And
But, well, the only thing is when I sat in that class and the guy said, oh, if you drive down these roads and you're losing 30% of your sand. And I said,
why?
not in our town. He goes, oh, yes, you are. I said, if we were losing 30% of the sand, if you go down these roads, that means 30% of your sand is in the ditch. And we don't have that. You're getting some, I don't
Yeah.
disagree, but I don't believe you're getting. Now, whether or not we're not putting it on the volume that they are to
Right.
consider this, or
Or
I
none
don't
of
know.
our roads
Another
are
thing
ground.
too,
I don't know.
if you pre-wet though, you can put it, you should get out before the storm actually starts and it's on the pavement. And then it creates that slush layer, so when they get ready to,
Another
Well-
thing that might be an obstacle for that option is, you probably don't have the capacity in that salt shed.
Oh, you don't?
You'd have to build
But the
another salt
volume
shed.
much,
No,
much
but
greater.
my thought is we repeatedly have certain people that that's their expectation, is they're gonna get. The only way this is gonna happen is if we did this. If the town is not willing to spend this funds, then this is what you're gonna get. That's my,
but again, salt priority we don't want on dirt roads.
Well,
We
you can't,
know-
I
Oh, I know
really
that.
can't do it,
I know
so
that.
if Chris isn't capable, I mean, he doesn't have the extra
But there
equipment.
again, if Griff said, yep, you can do this, but yeah, I'm gonna save a couple of trips on hot top, so that part of it's gonna cost you less, but I've gotta make special runs on all the dirt, so it's gonna cost you more. I don't know.
Right.
That's why, and if it's not worth pursuing, and that's fine as well. But I'm just trying to think of,
Well, I know in those classes, they talk about salt priority does save you money over the long run. Eventually, once you get it all figured out, it's supposed to save you money.
It does if you have the capacity, but
Right.
if, I question, if you've got 3 trucks, and now you've got to empty a truck and reload a truck, and how much money would it really save you? We may not be at that critical mass.
the other thing though, the class that I was at, and the guys that said that it saved the money, they said it saved the money after they bought a new enough truck that had the computer system.
Exactly.
So they got a newer
Yes.
truck.
Right.
It's
$400,000 truck, it's
Yeah.
good to go.
It's legitimately, it's got a sensor, it's reading the air temperature,
Whoa.
it's reading the road temperature,
Wow.
it's telling the truck, no, you're not doing 40, you can only do 38, because my spinner only goes fast enough to put out that amount of salt.
Wow. Wow.
And it's literally, the
Right.
guys are
And they're
Computerized.
saving money.
Yeah.
it's computerized, and that
Yes.
will save money,
Yeah.
Right.
but you
We'll
gotta,
never be there. We will never be there.
Not in my lifetime.
So,
that's the other side of it. But I just, like I said, maybe it's not nothing we wanna think about or talk about, but it's the only way to get these roads to what certain people think they all should be.
And as bad as my road was, now the weather, it worked in his favor, because we had a warm front come through and he was able to break it up. But like you said, I mean, I know Abbott's just as bad or worse, Dexter's just as bad or worse.
Dover's bad, trust me, I live in
Really
Dover.
It was very bad.
Yeah, so
The
it's,
dump road, holy.
I don't know about the dump road, I don't go to the
I
dump.
go across the Shaw, my mother-in-law's on the Shaw Road, I go over
Oh,
there.
yeah.
and the other thing is.
Frightening,
it-
frightening.
He's
Yeah.
got, I think he's got 3 trucks out there at any given time. So,
Yeah.
you know, things
Yeah.
could be happening on the other side of town and you're standing there tapping your foot saying, look at this road, I
Right,
can't believe how
right.
bad it is.
Right,
But somebody else is saying, look at that, they're right here getting this done. It takes a while to get around.
right,
Are we gonna double what we're spending so we can have twice as many guys? You know, I don't think so.
no.
I don't know what it would cost, that's my question, I don't know. But the other thing too, though, is that mile plus of road over on the other side of Gray Hill, heading over towards Cleves, with the inverted crown. Straight saw's not gonna work over there.
Nope,
Right,
And I've noticed on my road this year, after you leave Irving's house and you go around the corner, that long straightaway, before you get to mine or Jerry's, where there's no houses, that's now pooling in 3 spots.
Whoa.
So the whole center of that road is now turning, that's going inverted. So that's only 11-year-old pavement. So, once that center goes in that's not gonna be good either. So, I don't know, that's all I had.
Alright. Anything else on the budget for now?
no,
Any additional agenda items?
that's what that was.
Okay,
oh,
from anybody else though?
oh. Well, the only thing is, we had talked about, we had our marching orders to think about people who we wanted to,
Dedicate the town report to.
right, in the town, dedicate the town report for too.
It's a good idea.
So,
Any ideas?
well, I actually like the 2 that we discussed. I mean, I've really tried to think of anyone else, and I think Charlie Cleves and Aldina are, for me, that's my vote.
I don't have any fresh names. But we can wait.
can talk
When do
No,
you-
we talked about it in the
I
office,
have,
and we
but-
think those are 2 good choices,
And but we've got, till next meeting, you need an answer.
yeah. Yeah, cause then that gives 2 days to get it written.
Well,
Is it
here's the
something-
thing, the thing is though, don't the families or whomever need to put something together? I mean, at least for
Well,
Charlie.
we have, yeah, I would ask,
Alvina, or his family.
well, yeah, I'd call Sherry and ask her to
Right.
kind of keep it
So
like a
I'm gonna give
surprise
them
for
a
Alvina.
little bit
A
of
lot of
time.
these we've done 100%, they don't even know.
Right, oh,
So there's 2 ways to do it. You
Oh,
either
just-
do it 100% off the record, so
Oh.
nobody knows, or you do it and get their help to help put it.
I see.
Right.
So we gotta
I'm not
decide whether
saying-
we.
Last year, one knew and one didn't,
Okay,
Sure.
so
Yeah, because that was, we dedicated and then we did a,
we did a memorial and a
We did, yeah.
dedication.
yeah, yeah. Okay. That
And
was
we
the
can do
only
the
other
same thing, yeah.
Yep, that's it for me.
Okay. Executive session, anybody? No? Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? We're adjourned.